I just never know what I'm going to get involved with. My wife ropes me into all kinds of crazy things. Today it's shampoo bars so that my hair and hers can be healthy and strong.
Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene.
And I'm Jonathan, and today we are building poo bars. And as Ben would say, that sounds kind of sus. What are poo bars?
Okay, I know when I first heard it. So I was getting my hair cut. I have a dear friend who's just down the street from me that cuts my hair. And we were talking about some of the salves that I've made and stuff, and I had given her some to try, and she was pretty excited. And she asked me if I'd tried poo bars, and I'm like, But they're shampoo bars, and they're made from all these different natural ingredients, and I just had to try it because I love the soap that we've been making with all the medicinal herbs and all these great stuff in it. So today we're going to make some shampoo bars. I'm using a recipe that comes from helloglow.co, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. So I am using this recipe as a basis, but I'm not doing everything exactly the same, and I'll show you why. So the first thing that we needed to do was to measure out all of our ingredients. This is 10 ounces of beef tallow, and then we're gonna put in 10 ounces of coconut oil, and it's really important to weigh it. We have a little digital scale that we weigh it, but just so that everything's consistent, that works. This is olive oil, so 10 ounces of olive oil, 6 ounces of castor oil, and 1 tablespoon of neem oil. Neem oil stinks. Like, I use it as an insecticide on my plants, so I'm interested. It kind of stinks, huh? I'm hoping that all of the other things will kind of make this smell okay. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to stir this and heat it until it's all nice and melted together and combined, and then we'll be right back. All right, this is almost all melted, and then what we're gonna do is we're just going to turn off the burner and we're gonna let this sit. We want it to cool to 100 degrees. Now, while we are doing that, Jonathan is going to work his magic, but we're gonna do it out in the solarium so that we're not doing it right here. We do it outside, only we're in the middle of a huge snowstorm.
Absolutely. So, and we've got windows we can open out there, so that'll be a great place to do it. This is sodium hydroxide, or lye, and we're going to measure out 5.1 ounces of that and mix it with this beautiful concoction, which is water plus what?
Okay, so the recipe actually only calls for water, but what I've done is I've made an infusion that has both calendula and comfrey in it, because both of those are great for helping you to grow hair and thicken your hair, and they're supposed to be really, really good for it. So it's just like I made a tea with comfrey and calendula that we'd harvested from the garden. These were dried. If I was making this during the growing season, I would have just, used some of them that weren't dried, but this is going to be great. So instead of water, we're putting the lye into this, and we're gonna stir it up, and there's toxic fumes when this happens, right? This is really dangerous, so we wanna make sure that we're wearing gloves, a mask, and safety goggles. This will heat up. The lye causes a chemical reaction that makes it really hot, and we're gonna allow this to cool a little bit before we mix it with the oil. We want them both around 100 degrees or so. Now that this is cooled to 100 degrees, and that we allowed to cool for 10 or 15 minutes, but now it's time to gently combine these two. And he's just gonna stir them in. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an immersion blender, and we're gonna just mix this until it's like, it thickens and it's kind of like a pudding texture, and that is called trace. All right, we've reached trace now, so it's like a pudding. And we're gonna put 2 things in here. This is jasmine essential oil, and 1/2 of a tablespoon. And then we're going to do rosemary, and we're going to do 50 drops. All right, 50 drops. And then we're gonna stir this all in here and pour it into this mold. So this mold is this is actually the first time I've used it. Usually what we do is I have used these molds in the past, and it's just a lot more work, I think, to pour them into these molds, but they work just fine. So today we're gonna do this. What do you think, Daddy?
It's not quite like new tire or fresh cut lumber, but it's okay. It's very good.
It's sort of, except for I can smell the neem oil. And the neem oil to me is an insecticide for plants. And I know neem is good for you, but do you want to try pouring this for me?
I will.
And it just looks like a pudding. It really does. And when you buy homemade bars, you'll notice that a lot of times they actually have a really beautiful edge on the top. All right, so I am going to take, this is parchment paper. You could totally use wax paper. And I'm just gonna set that on the top. And then we're going to use towels to wrap this in, just so that it will cure a little bit more slowly, because the bars will turn out better. And then we've got a little bit left in here, so I think we should make some of these really cute little bars. Oh, this might just end up being half a bar. So we will be back tomorrow when this is cured enough for us to be able to cut it. Now, we should have actually cut these yesterday, but yesterday was a bit of a crazy day, so we didn't get to it till today. But you can see that the soap has all nice and hardened. And while you take that out and put it in the cutter, I'm going to just show you, these are the little forms that we have this in. And they just pop out. They're still a little bit soft. And as they age, they're going to get harder. They're just these beautiful little bars. And while he's doing that, let's talk a little bit about storage of the soap. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a box, a shoe box, and I'll actually use the same papers, the parchment paper that I put this in originally, and I'll just put the soap in here and put more parchment paper between layers. You don't want to store them in a plastic bag, because they won't store well in that. The soap will get really soft. The other thing that I do is I have these little paper bags that I had purchased. So if I want to store them individually, then I just slide the bar of soap in one of these. And these bags, over time, they'll kind of get an oily look to them. But I think that's a great way to store it. Okay, so it looks like a giant block of cheese or butter.
Yeah.
And you could do this any way you want, right? You could actually just cut this with a knife or something. You don't have to have something like this if you're trying to figure it out. But this makes it really easy. There's two different kinds. There's the straight kind and the wavy one.
I vote that you use that one on that end, and I'll use this one on this end, and we'll work together and kiss.
I love you. We'll just let you cut them all with that, okay?
All right.
But the soap, it'll get harder and harder, so we don't want to leave this too long before we do it. But it looks like it's still nice and easy just from today. Now, the whole reason why I'm making my own soap, remember, is because I'm trying to get more of the natural herbs and things in my life and the chemicals out. And so these poo bars, hopefully they're going to do really well. One of the other things that we did is we tried to experiment making a liquid soap from scratch. So we'll have to let you know how that one goes later. And I will come back and let you know what this does to my hair, good things or bad things. If I start wearing a hat all the time, you'll know it was bad things.
Or if my hair suddenly becomes thick and full again,
you'll know it was good things. Okay, now these bars, they look a little bit different, right? So it just kind of depends on what your preference is. They smell kind of good and kind of weird. Rosemary and jasmine. Now, you might be tempted to use this today, right after you've made it, but quite frankly, because it has the lye in it, it could burn your skin. So you need to wait for a month or maybe even 6 weeks until you use this. But by then, the bar will have cured more and it'll be worth the wait. I'm sure of it, right?
oh, absolutely.
For the question of the day, if you could have any flavor or scent in a soap, What would you have? Don't ask him.
New tire or fresh cut lumber?
Okay, I really like the citrus, but the question is for you. If you could have your soap smell any way that you wanted, what scent would that be? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.